He lay there for over 8 hours, not because of the fall, but because no one knew he had fallen. That sentence still echoes in my mind. It came from a story shared by an 81-year-old man who tripped in his kitchen at 7 a.m. No broken bones, just a sprained wrist. But with his phone across the room and no visitors expected that day, he was stuck. For hours, he lay in silence. And in that silence, he realized something far more painful than the injury itself. He was utterly alone. That story hit me hard, not just because it's tragic, but because it's common. I've spent the last decade working with older adults, helping them navigate the realities of aging, and I've learned this. Living alone can be empowering, but it can also be quietly dangerous. It's not always dramatic falls or emergencies that threaten our well-being. Sometimes it's the small, invisible things, the habits that slip, the clutter that piles up, the days that blur together, and the emotions we hide under "I'm fine." That's why this video matters. Today, we're going to explore 12 things you should avoid when living alone as an older person. Mistakes that might seem minor, but can lead to serious consequences if left unchecked. From social isolation and poor nutrition to safety oversights and financial disarray, we're covering it all. Not to alarm you, but to empower you. Because you deserve more than just survival. You deserve a life that's vibrant, secure, and full of meaning. And if you're watching this, I know you care about that too. So before we dive in, I want to ask you a small favor. If this message resonates with you, if you care about living your later years with strength and purpose, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss out on the rest of this series. And here's something special. Later in this video, I'll share a story that stopped me mid-sentence, something a senior woman said to me that completely shifted how I think about aging. When we get there, and if it touches your heart too, I invite you to leave a comment below and share your thoughts. Your story could inspire someone else watching. Because while living alone can be a challenge, it can also be a new chapter of peace, power, and purpose if we approach it with wisdom. So let's get into it. Let's start with one of the most underestimated dangers of living alone. Not physical, not financial, but emotional. The kind of danger that doesn't scream, but quietly takes something precious away each day. Let's talk about the silent threat of isolation. 1. Avoid complete social isolation. She said, "I didn't notice I was lonely until I realized no one had said my name in 3 days." That sentence hit me harder than I expected. It came from a soft-spoken woman in her late 70s during a senior wellness workshop I led. She had lost her husband a few years earlier, lived alone, and while her children lived in other states, the phone calls became fewer and far between. "I thought I was doing fine," she added, "until I realized the silence was starting to feel like part of me." And that's the quiet danger of living alone. Not isolation itself, but how silently and subtly it creeps in, without you even realizing. As someone who has worked closely with older adults for over a decade, I've seen how social disconnection begins slowly. A missed lunch, a canceled visit, then it's winter. It's harder to get out. You start telling yourself, "I'm fine, I don't need much." And then one day, you realize you haven't truly connected with another human being in weeks. Loneliness doesn't just hurt emotionally, it damages your body and your brain. Research shows that chronic loneliness increases the risk of dementia, high blood pressure, heart disease, depression, and even early death. But here's what gives me hope every single time. This is one of the most preventable health threats we face in older age. Staying connected doesn't mean going out every day or being surrounded by people 24/7. Sometimes it just takes one real, heartfelt interaction. A weekly call with your grandson, a short coffee chat with a neighbor, attending a local club, even if you sit quietly at first. One man I knew, Richard, age 84, found new joy just by teaching kids to play chess at the library. "They don't care that I forget things," he told me. "They care that I remember the game." That's the beauty of connection. It pulls you out of your head and reminds you that your presence, your wisdom, your very existence still matter. If you find yourself spending day after day in silence, only hearing the television or radio, let this be your gentle wake-up call. You don't have to fix it all today. Just start with one small step toward someone. And if anything in this story touched your heart, I invite you to leave a comment below. Share how you've stayed connected, or how you're trying. Your words might help someone else realize they're not alone either. Because facing loneliness doesn't make you weak. Choosing to connect makes you strong. And now that we've looked at how social isolation affects your emotional and even physical state, let's talk about another area that's just as important, your health. Because when you live alone and there's no one around to remind you to take your medication, check your blood pressure, or notice if something's off, it's far too easy for small issues to grow into serious problems. 2. Avoid neglecting your physical and mental health. She said, I kept telling myself I was fine until my knees gave out and I couldn't get off the floor. That's what Martha, a 76-year-old retired teacher, told me after her second fall in 3 months. She wasn't ignoring her health on purpose. In fact, she thought skipping one doctor's appointment or taking her medications a little late wasn't a big deal. But when you live alone, there's no one there to notice the slow decline. And sometimes, not noticing is what hurts you most. Over the past decade, I've worked with hundreds of older adults living independently, and I've learned this truth again and again. It's not usually the big things that harm your health. It's the slow forgetting. Forgetting to move your body. Forgetting to eat well. Forgetting that mental health matters just as much as physical. The body ages, yes, but neglect accelerates that process. I've seen older men, strong and sharp in their youth, become frail in just a year because they stopped walking daily. I've met women who once loved gardening or reading, who slowly lost interest in everything, and then lost themselves in silence. But here's the hopeful part. Your body and your mind are more resilient than you think. Even small, consistent actions can restore energy, balance, and clarity. Start with 15 minutes of gentle stretching in the morning. Take short walks, even if it's just to the mailbox and back. Drink water with every meal. Keep a routine, but don't stop at the physical. Check in on your emotional well-being too. Loneliness can grow into anxiety. Stillness can turn into sadness. And the worst part? No one might know until it's too late. If you're feeling off, even just a little, it's okay to talk to someone. A friend, a doctor, even a support group. You deserve to be heard, and you deserve to feel whole. And if any part of this message resonates with you, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear how you care for your health, or how you're struggling. You're not alone in this journey. Taking care of yourself isn't selfish. It's survival, and it's a powerful form of self-respect. You're not doing this just for today. You're investing in every tomorrow you still get to enjoy. Now that we've talked about protecting your health, let's focus on something equally vital, your safety. Because when your home becomes a place of risk instead of rest, it can turn a peaceful life into a dangerous one overnight. And most of the time, the danger is hiding in plain sight. 3. Avoid ignoring safety inside your home. She only meant to grab a glass of water. It was 2 a.m., the lights were off, and the hallway rug had curled up slightly at the edge. That was all it took. One slip, one fall, and Mrs. Ellen, 81, independent, sharp-minded, proud, fractured her hip. She couldn't reach her phone, and she lay there for hours until her neighbor knocked later that morning. What shook her the most wasn't the pain. It was the realization that her own home, the place she thought was safest, was suddenly her biggest risk. Over the years, I've seen this same story play out in different forms again and again. A missed step, a slippery bathroom tile, a shelf that's just a little too high. These aren't freak accidents. They're predictable, preventable, and tragically common among seniors living alone. And the danger isn't just physical. One fall can take away your independence, your confidence, and your peace of mind. That's why safety at home isn't a luxury, it's a priority. So let's talk specifics. First, lighting. Your home should never go dark, especially at night. Install motion sensor lights in hallways, stairwells, and bathrooms. Keep night lights plugged in, and always make sure you can see your path clearly, because most falls don't happen outside. They happen in familiar places, in the middle of the night, when you least expect it. Second, flooring. Get rid of loose rugs or secure them properly with non-slip backing. Make sure walkways are clear from clutter, especially in high-traffic areas. Cords, shoes, magazines, anything on the floor is a hazard. Third, grab bars. In bathrooms especially, install grab bars near the toilet and inside the shower. A simple slip on a wet floor can lead to months of recovery or even permanent disability. These small adjustments may not seem urgent until you realize they could save your life. One of my patients once told me, I didn't think I needed a grab bar until I was lying on the tile floor praying someone would hear me. If you live alone and haven't done a full home safety check recently, this is your sign. You don't have to overhaul everything in a day. Start with the room you use most. And if you've already made some changes, I'd love to hear about them in the comments. Your experience could help others take action too. Remember, being cautious isn't being paranoid, it's being wise. And wisdom is something you've earned through a lifetime of learning. Now, let's move from physical safety to something more subtle, but equally dangerous. Because sometimes, it's not the loose rug or the dark stairway that threatens your well-being. Sometimes, it's the habits we fall into when no one's watching. The ones that feel harmless until they're not. 4. Avoid falling into unhealthy habits. She didn't plan to stop cooking, she just skipped one dinner, then another. And before she knew it, Margaret, 78, found herself eating crackers and peanut butter straight from the jar most nights, sitting in front of the TV in her pajamas, watching old shows she barely remembered. I told myself it was fine, she later admitted, but after a while, I didn't recognize the woman I was becoming. That's how bad habits start, not with a decision, but with repetition. And when you live alone, there's no one there to notice when those small slips turn into long-term routines. Over the past 10 years working with seniors, I've learned this truth. It's not the big choices that derail us. It's the quiet ones, the skipped walks, the missed meals, the endless hours of screen time that slowly chip away at our strength, clarity, and joy. Living alone gives you freedom, yes. But freedom without structure can become a trap. One where you drift into patterns that leave you feeling more tired, more disconnected, and less like yourself. So what does this look like? It's sleeping in until noon, not because your body needs rest, but because you don't have anything to look forward to. It's forgetting to drink water, move your body, or go outside for days. It's watching hours of TV while ignoring the hobbies and passions that once lit up your life. But here's the good news. These habits can be replaced gently, gradually, and with grace. You don't need to become a new person overnight. You just need to choose one small thing to do differently today. Try setting a morning routine. Wake up, make your bed, stretch for 5 minutes, and enjoy a warm cup of tea by the window. Prepare one nourishing meal a day, nothing fancy, just real food that fuels you. Write down 3 things you're grateful for. And most importantly, find a reason to leave the house, even if it's just a 5-minute walk. One gentleman I knew started by walking to the mailbox each morning. Within a month, he was doing laps around his block and smiling again. It's not about perfection. It's about momentum. And if this part of the video speaks to you, I'd love for you to comment below. What's one habit you'd like to reclaim, or one that you've already changed for the better? Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Now that we've explored how easy it is to fall into unhealthy patterns, let's talk about something that often weighs even heavier, the burden of maintaining a home that no longer fits your life. Because sometimes, the place that once brought comfort becomes a source of stress, and letting go can be the most freeing act of all. 5. Avoid letting your home become a burden. She used to love that house. Every corner held a memory, birthdays, family dinners, Christmas mornings. But now, at 81, Mary found herself staring at the same walls with a different feeling, exhaustion. I didn't realize how tired I was, she told me, until I found myself crying over a broken faucet. It wasn't the plumbing. It was everything. The yard, the roof, the dust that seemed to multiply overnight. The home that once felt like her sanctuary had quietly become her burden. And she's not alone. I've worked with so many older adults who hold onto their homes out of love, tradition, or guilt. This is where I raised my children, they say. Or, I don't want to let go of the memories. And I understand that deeply. But here's the hard truth. As time goes on, maintaining a large home can drain your energy physically, emotionally, even financially. It can keep you tied to chores instead of freedom, and worry instead of rest. That doesn't mean you have to move out. Downsizing isn't for everyone, but it does mean you deserve to live in a space that supports your life, not one that quietly wears you down. Start by asking, is your home still serving your needs, or are you constantly serving it? Is the layout still safe? Are you cleaning rooms you haven't used in years? Are repairs stacking up faster than you can manage? If so, it may be time to rethink your space. For some, that means moving into a smaller, cozier place with less maintenance and more peace. For others, it means getting help, hiring someone to handle the lawn, asking a family member to help with repairs, or even reorganizing to simplify daily tasks. I remember one woman who resisted moving for years. When she finally settled into a smaller apartment, she told me, "I didn't lose anything. I gained time, energy, and peace of mind." That's what we're really talking about, freedom. Not giving up your past, but reclaiming your present. If you've been feeling overwhelmed by your home, I invite you to pause and reflect. What do you really need? What would truly make your life easier, lighter, more joyful? And if this part of the video speaks to you, feel free to share in the comments. What's one thing in your home you've let go of or need help with? You never know who else might be in the same place. Because when your environment nurtures you instead of drains you, everything else in life feels just a little bit lighter. And speaking of lightness, let's talk next about something that fills our days with meaning or leaves us drifting when it's gone. Let's talk about purpose and what happens when you lose it. 6. Avoid losing your sense of purpose. He told me, some mornings, I just sit in the kitchen and wonder why I even got out of bed. That came from a man named Charles, 79, who had retired 10 years earlier and lost his wife 3 years ago. At first, he said, the quiet was peaceful. But over time, the silence turned heavy. No deadlines, no one waiting for me, no reason to move, he said. That's the part of aging we don't talk about enough. What happens when the routines, roles, and responsibilities that once gave your days meaning quietly disappear? In my years working with older adults, I've seen it again and again. When people lose a sense of purpose, everything else starts to unravel. Motivation fades, energy drops, even physical health declines. It's not just emotional, it's biological. Our brains and bodies are wired to seek meaning. And when we feel needed, useful, or valued, we thrive. But when that sense fades, we drift. The good news is, purpose isn't something that disappears with age, it just changes form. Maybe you're no longer raising a family or working full-time, but your life still holds immense value. You have experiences, wisdom, and time, 3 things the world deeply needs. Volunteering, mentoring, taking care of a pet, learning something new, or simply being present for a neighbor, these aren't small things. They're acts of purpose. One woman I met started writing postcards to hospital patients who had no family. Another gentleman began tutoring children in math over the phone. It gave me back my mornings, he said. Purpose doesn't have to be big. It just has to be yours. Start small. Ask yourself, what makes me feel useful? When do I feel most alive? Your answers are the seeds of something meaningful. And if this part of the video resonates with you, I invite you to leave a comment. What gives your day meaning now? Or what are you still searching for? Your words may remind someone else that it's never too late to feel purposeful again. Because once you find purpose, everything changes. How you move, how you connect, how you see tomorrow. And speaking of tomorrow, let's shift gears and talk about something many of us struggle with but rarely admit: asking for help. Because holding on to independence is important, but believing we have to do it all alone, that can be a quiet kind of suffering too. 7. Avoid thinking you have to do everything alone. She had arthritis in her knees, a leaky kitchen faucet, and a yard full of weeds. But when I asked if she needed help, she smiled politely and said, "I'm fine." That's what stuck with me. How often older adults, especially those living alone, quietly carry more than they should. Not because they want to suffer, but because they believe asking for help is a sign of weakness. After working with seniors for over a decade, I've seen this silent struggle time and time again. There's a quiet pride in doing it all yourself, in proving you're still capable. And you are. But here's the truth. Being capable doesn't mean doing everything alone. It means knowing when to let others in. We all want independence, that sense of freedom, dignity, control over our days. But independence doesn't mean isolation. It's not weakness to need a hand. It's wisdom to know when to reach for one. Whether it's asking a neighbor to take out the trash, letting your daughter help organize your medications, or hiring someone to fix the gutters, you're not giving up control. You're choosing to preserve your energy for what truly matters. One woman I met, after resisting for months, finally let her son take over her weekly grocery run. I thought I'd feel useless, she told me. But instead, I felt loved. There's power in allowing others to care for you. It doesn't make you less independent. It makes you more supported. And support is what makes long-term independence sustainable. If you're watching this and something in your heart is whispering, "I've been carrying too much alone," then this is your reminder. You don't have to. And if someone has offered help, take it. That's not a burden. It's a gift. And if you've received help that made a difference in your life, share your story in the comments. Let others know what happens when you say yes to support. Your vulnerability might be the encouragement someone else needs. And now that we've talked about not carrying life's weight all on your own, let's shift to something else that can quietly weigh us down: the clutter around us. Because sometimes, the mess in our homes reflects the mess inside, and letting go of physical things can help us breathe again. White heavy checkmark 8. Tran Bo Bi Kong John's song. She didn't see it at first. The unopened mail piling up, the dishes sitting in the sink, the guest room slowly turning into a storage closet. I thought I was just tired, she told me. But one day, I looked around and realized I wasn't just tired. I was overwhelmed. And that's exactly how it happens. Not all at once, but slowly. When you live alone, it's easy to let little messes grow quietly into something heavier, both around you and within you. I've seen this pattern in many older adults. As motivation fades, clutter builds. And as clutter builds, motivation fades even more. It becomes a cycle that weighs on your body, your energy, and your mental clarity. Because your home isn't just where you live, it reflects how you're doing inside. A calm, clean space helps you think clearly, breathe deeply, and feel in control. A chaotic space does the opposite. But here's the truth: you don't have to do a full makeover to feel better. Start with one drawer, one surface, one corner of the room that you can reclaim today. Throw out expired food, recycle old papers, put on music you love, and open a window while you clean. Small steps create momentum, and momentum builds confidence. I remember helping a woman sort through a pile of clothes she hadn't touched in years. When we finished, she exhaled and said, "I feel like I just took a deep breath for the first time in months." That's what clearing space does. It gives you room to breathe, not just physically, but emotionally too. If this sounds familiar, if you've been avoiding that one closet or letting laundry pile up, this is your gentle nudge. Start today. And if you've already started decluttering, let us know in the comments. What part of your home did you reclaim, and how did it make you feel? You never know who you might inspire by sharing. And now that we've talked about our outer environment, let's take a closer look at our inner rhythm, time itself. Because when you lose structure in your day, even the most beautiful home can start to feel like a cage. Up next, let's talk about how to reclaim your sense of time and your sense of self. 9. Avoid letting time slip meaninglessly by. He woke up at 10, had a bowl of cereal, turned on the television, and suddenly it was dark outside. "I don't even know what I did today," George, 82, confessed to me one afternoon. "It's like time is passing, but I'm not really in it." That's the quiet risk of aging alone. The days blend together, and before you know it, a whole week has gone by without anything memorable or meaningful. When we lose structure, we lose rhythm. And when we lose rhythm, we begin to drift, not just through hours, but through life. In my work with older adults, I've seen this again and again. After retirement or the loss of a partner, people begin to float through their days without intention. There are no deadlines, no meetings, no real need to get dressed before noon. It starts as freedom, but over time it becomes emptiness. But here's the good news: structure doesn't have to feel rigid. It can feel empowering. You don't need a packed schedule to feel engaged. You just need anchors, small rituals that give your day shape and purpose. Start by building a simple routine. Wake up at the same time each morning. Enjoy your coffee by the window while listening to music or reading a chapter of a book. Plan a short walk after lunch. Call a friend on Wednesdays. Cook something new on Sundays. When you give your time a name, it starts to give something back. One man I worked with set a Wednesday walk and watch tradition. He'd stroll to the park in the morning and treat himself to an old movie in the afternoon. "It gave my week a heartbeat," he said. And that's what routines do. They remind us we're living, not just existing. If you've been feeling adrift, you're not alone. Let this be your permission to take back control of your time. Start small. Write down your ideal day, not for anyone else, just for you. And if you've already found ways to bring rhythm back into your life, share it in the comments. You might give someone else a reason to reclaim their day too. And speaking of letting go and reclaiming, let's talk next about something many of us hold on to too tightly: sentimental clutter. Because sometimes it's not just time we're stuck in, it's the past. 10. Avoid holding on to too many sentimental items. She hadn't opened the closet in years, but when she finally did, the scent of her late husband's cologne still lingered on his favorite jacket. "I couldn't throw it away," she whispered. "It felt like I'd be throwing him away." That moment broke my heart, but it also taught me something important. There's a fine line between honoring the past and becoming trapped in it. As we age, it's natural to collect memories, birthday cards, old clothes, handwritten notes, faded photographs. Every item holds a story. But when your space becomes filled with more past than present, it can start to weigh you down, emotionally and physically. I've met people who kept every gift, every receipt, every pair of shoes their spouse ever wore. Not because they needed them, but because letting go felt like betrayal. But here's the truth. You're not erasing the memory by releasing the object. The love, the laughter, the lessons, they live inside you, not inside a box under the bed. When we cling to too much, we don't leave room for what's still ahead. If you've been avoiding that one drawer or that packed hall closet, you're not alone. And you don't have to clear it all in a day. Start small. Choose one item. Hold it. Feel the memory. Then ask yourself, do I need this to remember? Or am I ready to let go just a little? One woman I worked with took photos of her late husband's belongings before donating them. Now I have space, she said, and a way to remember, without the weight. That's the gift of letting go. It frees your space and lifts your spirit. If this resonates with you, I encourage you to share in the comments. What's one item you've released or one you're still holding on to? You never know who you might inspire by telling your story. And as we talk about releasing the past, let's also prepare for what the future may bring. Because the truth is, emergencies don't wait for us to be ready. And the next part of this video might be the most important of all: how to stay safe and prepared when no one else is around. 11. Avoid being unprepared for emergencies. The lights went out just after midnight. No warning, no weather alert, just silence. Robert, 83, reached for his flashlight, but couldn't remember where he last left it. His phone battery was nearly dead, and he didn't have extra water or a backup power source. I sat in the dark for hours, he told me. I wasn't scared because of the storm, I was scared because I realized how unprepared I really was. That's the moment many older adults face, not when the emergency begins, but when it's too late to react. When you live alone, being ready isn't just smart, it's essential. Whether it's a sudden fall, a power outage, a winter storm, or a medical event, help may not arrive right away. That's why having a simple plan can literally save your life. So, what should be in that plan? Start with a basic emergency kit, a working flashlight with extra batteries, bottled water, shelf-stable food, a backup phone charger or power bank, and a written list of emergency contacts, family, neighbors, doctors, kept somewhere visible. If you take daily medications, prepare at least a 7-day backup supply in a clearly labeled container. Know where your insurance and medical information are stored, and make sure someone else you trust knows, too. One man I knew kept a just-in-case folder near his front door. Inside were copies of his ID, medical directives, prescriptions, and contacts. If something ever happens, he said, I want the people helping me to have everything they need. That mindset isn't paranoid, it's powerful. Technology can also help. Personal emergency response systems, those wearable devices with a help button, are now more discreet and affordable than ever. Motion sensors, smart lights, even medication reminder apps can provide safety without sacrificing independence. And if you've ever experienced a moment like Robert's, realizing you weren't ready, I'd love for you to share it in the comments. What would you do differently now? Your insight could make all the difference for someone else watching this. Now, let's bring it all together. Because everything we've talked about, from preventing isolation to emergency planning, has one common goal: helping you live alone without feeling lost. And in this final part of the video, we'll remind ourselves of something powerful. Your story is still unfolding, and you get to write what comes next. 12. Avoid financial disorganization. She hadn't looked at her bank statement in months. When she finally did, she realized she'd been paying for a streaming service she never used and had missed 2 electricity bills. I just assumed everything was fine, she said quietly. But the late fees, the overdraft, the stress, it all caught up with me. And this happens more often than you think. Not because people are careless, but because life gets overwhelming, and when you live alone, no one else is there to catch the mistakes. Financial disorganization is one of those hidden risks that slowly chips away at your peace of mind. A misplaced bill here, a forgotten password there. Suddenly you're drowning in paper, missing payments, or worse, becoming vulnerable to scams and fraud. But here's the good news: getting financially organized doesn't have to be complicated. Start by creating one simple space, a folder, a drawer, even a labeled box where you keep all your essential documents, bank statements, insurance papers, utility bills, and any medical or legal records. Go paperless where you can, and set up automatic payments for monthly essentials like rent, electricity, or internet. Use a calendar or even sticky notes to mark payment dates and check-ins. If you're not comfortable doing it all on your own, ask someone you trust, a family member, a friend, or a financial advisor, to sit down with you once a month. Not to control anything, but to review and simplify. You'd be amazed how many people regain confidence in their finances just by having one clear conversation. One man I knew, age 86, made a weekly Money Monday. It wasn't a big ordeal, just 20 minutes to look over his accounts, shred junk mail, and check that his bills were paid. It gave me control back, he said, and I stopped dreading my mailbox. If this sounds familiar, or if you've discovered a way to simplify your finances, share it in the comments. Your story might encourage someone else to take that first step toward clarity. Now that we've tackled one of the most common sources of stress, it's time to zoom out. Because this entire video hasn't been just about what to avoid, it's about what you still can do. So let's close with one final thought. Living alone doesn't mean living small. Your story isn't finished, it's just entering a new chapter. Living alone doesn't mean living in silence. It doesn't mean giving up on joy or purpose or connection. It simply means you now hold the pen, and every day is a blank page that you get to fill with what matters most to you. Throughout this video, we've explored 12 things to avoid when living alone as an older adult, from ignoring your health to letting time slip away, from unsafe spaces to emotional clutter. Each one is a reminder that your independence is not just about doing things alone. It's about doing them intentionally, with clarity, with strength, with love for yourself. And yes, living alone can be challenging. It takes more effort to stay engaged, to keep structure, to ask for help when needed. But the truth is, you are not alone in this experience. There are millions of others just like you, navigating this chapter of life with courage, resilience, and grace. So if you're still here, watching until the end, I want to say thank you. Not just for your time, but for the way you show up for yourself. That matters. You matter. And now, I'd love to hear from you. What part of this video resonated with you most? Was there a story that reminded you of yourself? A tip that felt like something you needed to hear today? Please take a moment to leave a comment below. Your voice could help someone else feel a little less alone. If this video gave you insight, encouragement, or just a small sense of connection, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Your support helps us reach more people who need messages just like this one. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new video that speaks to your heart. Because living alone is not the end of your story. In fact, it might be the chapter where you rediscover your strength, your joy, your peace, and write something beautiful. Take care of yourself. And never forget, you may live alone, but you are never truly alone.